welcome to Noble Character Crafts. My name is Amy and I'm coming to you from eastern Nebraska, where I live with my husband and our 5 children. Today is Thursday, July 10th, 2025. A huge welcome to any new or returning viewers. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you really enjoyed this episode. This is a channel all about my crafty life, and today I have knitting and crocheting to share with you all. I will have links to the places that you can find me in the description box below, as well as the show notes for this episode. Today I'm wearing a hand knit shirt that I made a couple of years ago. This pattern is the very popular Ranunculus, which is a design by Midori HIROSE. I knit this using fingering weight yarn from Knit Picks in the Comfy Fingering base. The colorway is called Marlin, and that is a cotton and acrylic blend. It took only 89 grams to knit this sweater. It's quite cropped. It just comes to my natural waist. And I don't remember all of the details for this since I made it 2 years ago, but I will try to remember to link to the episode where I share this as a finished object if you want to know any more details about how I made this pattern. But it's a really nice top to have during the warm summer months, since it's made in, a light cotton acrylic blend. So it works really well, and it has such an open gauge too that it really is a nice little top just to be able to throw on in the summertime. Okay, I have a few finished objects to share with you all and several works in progress as well. The first finished object I have to share with you are these socks that I finished. I shared these on my last episode. They are just a very simple pair of vanilla socks using up some 3 different colorways of Knit Picks Felici that I had in my stash. I cast on 60 stitches using US 0.2mm needles. I did 2x1 ribbing for 2 color stripes, which totaled 14 rounds. And then I just went into plain stockinette for the leg. I don't remember exactly how many rows I did for the leg, but probably between 60 and 70, somewhere around there. I did a slip stitch heel flap for the heel, and then just did, again, plain stockinette for the foot and a rounded toe. So my basic sock pattern, I just use the instructions from Kayla Litton's free patterns for her vanilla socks. That's what I do for my, for my heels and my toes, typically for any socks that I make. These are going to be set aside as a gift. My daughter is downstairs, so I don't think she can hear me, but a couple of times she really commented on how much she liked these, so I think I'll set these aside for her. I did knit them just a little bit shorter than I would for myself because her feet are a little bit smaller than mine, so I will probably gift these to her probably for Christmas. That's her birthday is not until January, so probably for Christmas I'll give these to her. Anyway, these were super fun to make. The 3 different colorways that I used are Candy Shop, that ran from the top through the white stripe, and then Captain Nemo is the purple and blue stripes that went through the heel turn. And then from this yellow to the orange is called Golden Hour. And then I went back to the Candy Shop until the green, and then the little purple on the toe is again Captain Nemo. So I was just using up some leftover scraps of Knit Picks Felici that I had. So that's fingering weight, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. I started these on June 20th and finished them on July 5th. I also finished this baby sweater or cardigan. I crocheted this up in one day. It was a very fast project. I made it on June 28th. I originally started making this to be a dress. So I was following a free pattern called Newborn Summer Dress. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. The designer is N3SSY. And I have made that pattern once before. So it starts off being crocheted flat, and then you eventually join it in the round to make the dress. So I started off making it, and then I thought that I wanted to try to make this into a cardigan rather than a dress, just because I think that a cardigan will probably be more useful rather than a dress. I feel like a dress maybe would only be worn by a newborn a few times, whereas a cardigan might be a little bit more useful to throw on if the baby was in, you know, air conditioning or something like that. Or once it starts cooling off, of course, then maybe it would be more useful to put this on as a layering piece. So I only followed the first 4 rows for the pattern. And then once the pattern calls for you to join in the round, I just kept working flat. So the yoke is done using double crochet stitches. And then for the dress pattern, it does include this shell pattern for the bottom of the dress. So I did, you know, follow the pattern for the shell stitches, but I just kept working flat basically. I did, you know, quite a few different modifications, but I pretty much, I don't know. I could give you some more details on what exactly I did. Maybe if you're really interested, you can just contact me if you're really interested in having my notes on how I made this, but I kind of just did my own thing. Anyway, I used some worsted weight yarn, and this pattern actually calls for you to use DK weight yarn, so I knew it was going to turn out a little bit bigger than what the pattern recommended. But I used Sprightly yarns, cotton worsted in the Ecru colorway. I used a 4.5 millimeter hook, and then the dress does not have any sleeves attached. It's just split. Once you do the yoke, you split for the sleeve separation, I guess, and then you don't add any more on to the sleeves, I don't believe. And anyway, so I just continued with the double crochet stitching for the arms. I've got these sleeves cuffed right now, but I just did that because I thought it was cute. But of course you could leave them uncuffed as well. Anyway, I just used up, I think I pretty much used up all of this yarn that I had in my stash. I only had a little ball of it left. And anyway, I think it's really cute. I'm not really sure what size it would be. No, it's not big, so maybe newborn to 3 months or so would be my guess. And I just had a couple of, these are pretty vintage. I'm confident these are vintage buttons that were in my stash. Just a little pearly button. So I've added 2 of those up here at the top. There are not buttonholes, but since the double crochet stitches have these openings, you can just use those as buttonholes. So it was a pretty simple project to work on. It weighs 101 grams. And yeah, hopefully I will gift this to somebody down the road. I don't know who. I just like making baby things and then gifting them whenever. I made another baby project, again, I don't know who, and again, just kind of using up some scraps. So I had made a baby blanket using this variegated yarn not too long ago, and I had quite a bit of this variegated yarn left over. It is Bernat Cottontots yarn. And I've also made this pattern before as well. It is called the Bunny Lovey, and again, it's a free pattern. I'm pretty sure it's a free pattern. I got it off of the Love Crafts website. I don't believe it's available on Ravelry. The designer is called Burgundy and Blush. And again, this is also a DK weight pattern, and I used worsted weight. Actually, all of the white yarn is also Bernat Cottontots, just in a white colorway. I don't know if that's exactly what it's called, but it's a white colorway. Anyway, so this is all crocheted using both 4 millimeter for the amigurumi part, so the bunny's head, ears, and hand or arms, and then the blanket part is using a 5 millimeter hook. I started this on June 30th and finished it on the 4th of July. I really enjoyed making this. Did I mention that I've made this once before as well? I think I did, but I did make this once before, again, probably a couple of years ago. And so anyway, you make the head, ears, and arms separately. Stuff the head and a little bit of the arms, just like this part is not stuffed, and then just the end of the arms is stuffed. And you sew all those pieces together. The instructions include directions for sewing this little sleepy face on there. I think the last time I made this, I used black thread for the face, but this time I had this gray color, and I thought that that looked sweet to use a more subtle color rather than a stark black color. And then I was happy to use up a lot of the variegated color. This colorway is called Wonder Dreams, I think. Anyway, I used up what I had of that. Well, most of it. I just have tiny little balls of that colorway left. And then I had quite a bit of this yellow. I don't know what it is, but it's just another worsted weight cotton yarn in yellow. And then did a little trim using some white colored yarn again. I'm pretty sure I followed the pattern exactly, except for the color placement in the blanket. She kind of gives the designer gives a couple of instructions on how to do the placement of the colors. You could change colors every round. In one of her examples, she shows that, but I was just using up what I had. Anyway, I think it's very sweet. It was really fun to make, and yeah, I will be happy to gift this to somebody down the road as well. And yeah, I just really like how that turned out. It's really sweet. So it turned out probably a little bit bigger than the original design since I used worsted weight yarn, but I think it's still a wonderful size. If you notice that the lighting in here is a bit darker than normal, it is just cloudy today. We got a little bit of a rain sprinkle outside just a little bit ago, but yeah, it's a bit cloudy, so I'm just working with what I've got for today with the natural light. Okay, a few more finished objects. I made another cute little toy doll sweater for my mom. This is another free pattern. It is called Sweaters for Toys, and the designer is J.G. Miller. My mom collects dolls. She's really into rag dolls right now, and so she's asked me to make several sweaters for her. It started off with just red or blue, or maybe she said red and blue, I'm not sure. Anyway, I made her a red one, which I showed on my last episode. She loved it so much, and so now she's come up with lots of other colors that she would love to have, and I love making them. And I also love making stuff for my mom. I love gift knitting anyway, and you know, my mom has gotten so many things from me over the years that it's at the point now where a lot of times I'm not sure I want to make her stuff, but I don't know what to make her. So it's so great that she is asking specifically for these sweaters for her dolls, because, you know, I love making things for her, and I know that she'll really enjoy them. So it's great. Anyway, this one turned out so cute, I think. The pattern calls for DK weight yarn, and this is DK weight yarn. It is loops and threads, cozy wool tweed in blush. It is a 66% polyester, 30% acrylic, 4% wool blend. And I made the size D in the pattern. I started this on June 29th and finished it on July 8th. I used US 3.75 millimeter needles. It is knit from the top down. The original pattern has short sleeves, but I'm making my mom's sweaters all long sleeved. It just has a couple of buttons here at the top to close it up, and those again were just from my stash, so those are just a simple plastic button. It's really cute and easy to make, and I enjoy it so much. The mail truck is here, so let's go see what that is about. It wasn't yarn this time. It was just I'm going to a bridal shower on Sunday, and it was a package that I ordered as a gift for that. Which I'm glad I got it, because the shipment said it might not arrive on time, so I was a little worried about that. Anyway, I think I was all done talking about this. I think that covered it. So anyway, this is only the second one. I'll show you my works in progress. I've started a third one so I made a red one. This one's kind of, she wanted pinky peach. This is the best option I had in my stash. Next I have a light green one. And then she wants a light blue one, a dark blue one, and a light purple. So we have more to come of these little toy sweaters. Okay, one more finished object, super tiny little square I made. I just wanted to mention that I whipped this up really quickly. I followed a free tutorial that I found from one of the ladies that I follow here on YouTube, which is Sandra Paul of Cherry Heart. She put out a free tutorial showing how she made this floral haze crochet square. And I just love trying new crochet patterns, especially granny squares are one of my very favorites. So I wanted to give this pattern a try. It was super fun to make, and I can definitely see making a blanket using this pattern sometime down the road, but I just have this one square that I'll probably use as a coaster or something like that. I just wanted to share that that was a really fun pattern that I will link down below, and I recommend you checking it out if you are interested. Okay, on to my works in progress. The first one I'll share with you, I shared on my last episode. It's being held in this cute bag that I received in a swap several years ago, and it is the gnome that I am making for my mom's best friend. And it is the pattern called Someone to Write Gnome About. It is a pattern by Schira. And last time I recorded, I was working on the hat. It's so big. I had no idea that this pattern specifically is one of the larger gnomes from Schira's pattern. So she's well known for making gnome patterns. And this is, I guess, one of the larger ones. It's the first time I've ever made one of her patterns, and I just love the looks of it, and so did my mom. And so anyway, I am making this for, I'm going to be making two gnomes, one for her best friend and then one for her, another one of her friends. Actually, it's her best friend's daughter, but my mom gets together with her best friend and her best friend's daughter periodically. So it's going to be a gift for her best friend. This one is. So anyway, here's the hat. It was super fun to make, but it took a long time. I started this on June 20th, and I just finished this yesterday on July 9th. Of course, I have lots of whips going on right now, so it didn't get my full attention, but still, it took a long time. It's made using fingering weight yarn. This was made using Paintbox Yarns socks in Stripes Candy, which is 75% superwash merino, or maybe it just says superwash wool, and then 25% polyamide. And I used US 2.25 millimeter needles. And I have just started on the body part, and that is going to be in a solid purple color. So it's, I'm assuming it's knit from the bottom up, because I've just made this circular section, which I believe is the bottom of the gnome, or the body of the gnome. And this yarn is Knit Picks Stroll Fingering in the Paisley Heather colorway, which is a super pretty color. And again, fingering weight 75-25 for that. And then I also have just a bare yarn, which is Pearl Soho Posy base. And that is what I'm going to be using for the beard. So it's coming along. It's a really beautifully written pattern. It's so well written. I'm a bit tangled here with my different yarns. And I'm just really enjoying working through this gnome. It's been really fun, but I did think it was going to be a pretty quick project, and it's turning out not to be, because like I said, it's one of the bigger gnomes that she has in her design, in her different gnome designs. It's one of the larger ones, so it's taking quite a while. Another work in progress that you have seen before is being held in this beautiful bag that was made by Susan of Delightful Works. And I am knitting a sweater for my great niece. This is called Aeron Sweater. It's designed by, I don't know, I said that last time. I'll just put the designer down below. I just don't know how to say that first name. I don't know, maybe I should try to look that up, because it would be good to learn how to say that. Anyway, I am making this for my great niece, who will be turning 1 in October, and her mom asked me to make her a sweater that has her name on the front of it. So I'll again insert a picture of what this is meant to replicate. And last time I recorded, I was just working on the back piece, and I was right here where this gorgeous progress keeper is marking. This was cross-stitched for me by Erica of the Rose Opal Knits podcast. So I finished part of the section of the back section, and then I've knit the front section, which you start on one side, do the other side, and then join the front pieces here and work flat for a while. But now I'm working in the round, which is nice. So I'm just going to be working in this half fisherman's ribbing for quite a while. I think it's about 12 inches or so for this size that I need to work from the shoulders. It needs to measure about 12 inches, I think. Let's see. 13.4. So I'm making the 12-month size. This pattern goes all the way from newborn to 10 or 12 years, I think. Let's see. Newborn to 10 years. So it's got a great range of sizes. The only thing that's a little bit unfortunate about working in the round is that it's not really not unfortunate for me. I don't mind purling, but I know a lot of people don't love purling, and fisherman's rib is ribbing on one side and then knitting on the second side when you're working flat. But when you're working in the round, it's knit one, purl one for one row, and then purling for the second row. So I don't mind purling, so it doesn't bother me, but I know a lot of people don't enjoy it. Anyway, I am using US 4 3.5 millimeter needles for this, and the yarn that I'm using is Knit Picks Swish DK in Blossom Heather, and that is 100% fine superwash merino wool. It's got such a squishy, soft texture to it. It's wonderful. I'm really enjoying it, and it's super simple at this point because it's just half fisherman's rib, so it's really easy to just work in the round on this one. So that's nice to have an easy project on the go. The half fisherman's rib stitch is a little bit tricky because you kind of got to go down one row to insert your needle for the knit stitch, but it's not terrible. It's pretty simple. Okay, I have one more work in progress that you have seen before, and then I have 4 new works in progress to share. Okay, so this is the Garden Romance afghan that I'm working on, using up some yarn that was sent to me by a viewer of this channel. And I have made quite a bit of progress on this. It's looking really good, I think. So Mickey sent me this yarn. She said that it is Karen brand yarn. I believe that it's Karen Simply Soft, but it was in kind of a different packaging, like a mill ends packaging, so there were no labels on it. But anyway, she gifted me these 3 colors, and I have the same amount of each of them, and so I'm just using them up to make this beautiful afghan, which is from a leisure arts publication that I have in my stash called A Year of Afghans Book 5. The designer is called Nair Carwell. You can't always, that's not written in the book that I have, but I looked on Ravelry and I was able to find the designer's name. But for some of those, I have several of those copies of A Year of Afghans. There's several years of those publications that I have in my stash, and not all of them have the designer listed. Anyway, last time I recorded, I was right here where this horse progress keeper is marking. That was gifted to me by a friend named Abby. And so I've again doubled my work on this pretty much. So that's exciting. And I'm just going to make this as big as the yarn will allow, as long as it will allow. I'm following the pattern exactly. I don't think I'm making any modifications to it. I'm using an H5mm hook. I started this on May 31st. And I'm really enjoying it. The pattern is super easy and really relaxing to work on. It is a 1-row repeat, and I change colors every 2 rows as the pattern suggests. The original pattern I think used 4 colors, and I only am using these 3, but it doesn't really matter. So I think the pattern is coming along really well. I think it'll be beautiful. This will be, again, another item that I probably just gift down the road. So I'm just going to make it and keep it on hand and gift it to someone at some point down the road. So on to my new works in progress. The first is being held in this adorable bag that I was gifted by a viewer of this channel named Nicole. And in here I am working up the newest pattern by Kayla Litton of Crazy Sock Lady. And she has come out with this new pattern called the Vanilla Bean Socks. And I was excited to get started on these. So here is my progress. I did make a bit of a modification to these. It's not a big modification, but when I knit my socks, I prefer to cast on 60 stitches just to get the best fit for my feet. And when I've made a 56 stitch sock, that's a bit too tight, and 64 is a bit too loose. So I've just found that 60 stitches works great for me. And Kayla's pattern does not come with 60 stitches as one of the options, but it works with the pattern to use 60 stitches. So I just did that because I could see by looking at the pattern that it would work. So I cast on 60 stitches, and the original pattern calls for a 2x2 ribbing, so knit 2, purl 2 for the ribbing, and I just did knit 2, purl 1, again, so it would just fit with my 60 stitches more easily. Since I knit the magic loop, that works best for me. So I did 20 rounds of knit 2, purl 1 for the ribbing. The yarn that I'm using is Suburban Stitcher sock yarn in the Boardwalk colorway for the main color. It's so beautiful. I've had it in my stash for several years, and I'm so glad I'm finally using it up. It's just got this beautiful creamy base with mint green and then beautiful speckles of brown and this fuchsia color every once in a while. So that's why I picked this contrast color to go with it. The contrast color was a mini that was gifted to me by my cousin Allie when we did a Christmas swap last year. And it is Hazelnut's Blueprint in Seattle Mopop. So the main color is fingering weight, and it's 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. But the contrast color is an 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, but it works great, even though they're not exactly the same. So for these, after I got done with the 20 rounds of ribbing, I wanted to add in, I thought at first I would just add a little stripe of the contrast color up at the top, but it worked with the patterning to do, I just really liked how that looked with the stripes. So I thought I would do 3 stripes of the contrast color, and it works with the pattern repeat. So I do one pattern repeat. I did one pattern repeat in the contrast color, one pattern repeat in the main color, and did that so that I had 3 stripes of the contrast color. I think it would be super fun to make a sock entirely striped like that. It'd be really cool to do it and like make every stripe a different color, but then you'd have tons of ends so to weave in. So then the other thing I've thought of is just using 2 colors for the entirety of the sock and striping them like that. I just think it looks really cool. The texture of this pattern is so squishy, and it's a super, super easily memorizable pattern. It's really enjoyable. I am working on the slip stitch heel flap right now. And did I mention I'm using US 0.2mm needles, and obviously I'm knitting them 2 at a time, which I do always do for my socks. I love that method of making socks. It just works great for me. So I'm really enjoying these. I started these on July 1st when the pattern came out. I was super excited to give this new pattern a try, and I'm loving them. In this sweet bag that I got from My Creative Frenzy on Etsy is the next toy sweater that I'm making for my mom, like I mentioned. So again, this is by J.G. Miller, and I am making it using this light green colored yarn. I'm still just in the raglan increasing section of the sweater. And the yarn that I'm using for this one is Kramer Yarns Tatami loops in the Playtime colorway. It's DK weight, and it is 45% cotton, 55% acrylic blend. So that's another cute little toy sweater that will work up pretty quickly probably. I just started this on July 8th. I am also making another baby sweater that's being held in this bag from Tuft Woolens. And I have made quite a bit of progress on this too. So let's see, this is another free pattern. It is called Wee Bean by Tega Hillard. I'm also not sure how to pronounce her name, but I have made another pattern by her a long time ago. But I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. Anyway, there are several ladies that I go to church with that are having babies soon, and then also I have a cousin. Well, my husband's cousin is also expecting in September. So anyway, there's just lots of new babies being born soon. So I want to try to work up several gifts to give to them besides baby blankets, which I have a good stash of as well. And so I wanted to try this free pattern. I started this on June 29th, and I'm following the instructions for the size 0 to 3 months. And I went down on my needle size. I did not gauge swatch for this, but I went down on my needle size to a US 5 3.75 millimeter for the entirety of the sweater. But it has still turned out too big for it. I was expecting it to be, I wanted it 0 to 3 months, and it's measuring to be more of a 12-month, maybe even 18-month sized cardigan. But that's okay. Babies grow, so that'll be okay. The yarn I'm using is I Love This Cotton in the Parchment colorway. It's 100% cotton from Hobby Lobby. And when I divided for the sleeves, I cast on 3 underarm stitches, which the pattern does not call for, and I've never had that before, and it just seemed really strange not to have any underarm stitches cast on when I split for the sleeves. And anyway, so I just cast on 3 stitches, and then when I picked up for under the underarm, when I started knitting the sleeve, the first sleeve, I picked up 6 stitches under the underarms, and then I just did 1 decrease round pretty quickly after I started this first sleeve. So it is a very simple pattern. You can see that there's just a few garter ridges through the yoke section, and then the rest is just done in plain stockinette. The ribbing is all done with garter stitching. I had to look online to try to figure out how long to make the sleeves for the size that it's turning out to be, and it said that for a 12-month to 18-month size, the sleeve should measure about 8 inches from the underarm. So that's what I did. And there is a little boy also that we go to church with that just turned 1. And he's pretty small also. So this might work for him, maybe. I'm just making it, and I don't know who I'll give it to, but there's lots of opportunities to give baby gifts in my life lately. So I'll find somebody that will hopefully enjoy this cardigan. Just have that one more sleeve to work on, and it shouldn't take too much longer to finish that up. I just have one more work in progress to share with you that I'm super excited about. I mentioned on my last episode that I love watching Yaji of And Made Co. And she is co-hosting a make-along along with Christy of Mamie Grace Designs. They are hosting the Flower Power Mal that is running all the month of July. And it is just for you to join in making patterns with a flower theme. And I was excited to join in on that make-along because I wanted to work up another crochet blanket, which if you've watched before, you know that's my very favorite thing to work on. And I had seen this blanket in another one of my Leisure Arts A Year of Afghans publications. This is the 1998 publication. And the pattern that I really wanted to give a try is called Floral Sampler. So I thought that was really fitting for the mal. Here is a picture of, hopefully you can get an idea of what that looks like. I thought it was just so pretty and fun, and I had a bunch of DK weight acrylic yarns that I had in my stash that I wanted to try to use up. I made another hexagon blanket earlier this year. Yes, I'm sure it was earlier this year. Maybe I started it last year, but I just finished it up this year. That is a baby blanket that I made using hexagons. I'll insert a picture of it here. So I have a ton of these colors left over, and then I just added in one more color. I don't have any of the dark green that's in this afghan that I made. I only had a tiny little ball of that left when I was finished with that blanket. But otherwise I'm using all of those colors. Oh no, there was also a medium colored pink that I also don't have, but you'll see what colors I'm using as I show off. This is the only one that's new. It is a Baby Bee Sweet Delight Prince in the Kitty colorway. So it's just a white base with specks of pink, purple, and turquoise, or like a light blue. Anyway, I won't go through all of the yarns that I'm using because I'm using 8 different yarns and there are a couple of different bases, but anyway. So I wanted to, like I said, give this pattern a try, and it calls for you to make 3 different motifs, and then it shows how to place them. So the first motif, motif A, is here, and I have made 4 of them. I am using a 4mm hook, which is, the original pattern calls for worsted weight yarn. So since I'm using DK weight yarn, I've also gone down in my hook size. Oh no, I haven't. The pattern calls for you to use a 4mm hook with worsted weight, but anyway, it works for, I thought it would be great for DK. That seems small for worsted weight. Usually you wouldn't use a 4mm hook with worsted weight yarn, but anyway. So here we go. I'm just doing I'm randomly going to be placing all of the colors. Some of these colors I have varying amounts of these colors. Some I only have 1 skein, and some I have 2 or a little more than 2, even with one of them. So I'll just be changing up the colors a lot and randomly placing them around on the afghan. I am planning on following the placement of the different motifs. Let's see if I can show you this. So here is the placement diagram, and you're supposed to make, so like the top row is all motif A, and then the next row is all motif B, and then this darker row is all motif C, and then they're just placed like that. So I am planning on following that diagram for how to place them. And I'm also planning on making this to be the original size. I am planning on gifting this to a little girl that we go to church with, who is going to become a big sister later on this year. And so I thought it would be fun for her to have a blanket, especially for her when the new baby comes. Since the new baby will be getting so many things, I thought it would be fun for her, because she's an only child at this point. So I thought it would be fun for her to get a gift. And so I thought it would also be nice to make it more of a twin-sized afghan. And I think this one will be pretty good. The original dimensions are supposed to be 45 by 68. Since I'm using DK weight yarn, it will be a little bit less than that probably, but I think it will be still a pretty good size. You know, it's going to be like a toddler-sized blanket is what I'm going for. Okay, then motif B, I've only done 3 so far of motif B, but these are really fun to work up, these motifs. I enjoyed these motif A and motif B, really, I enjoyed making them a lot. I'm excited to make more and see how this comes together. And then for motif C, I didn't have as much luck with motif C. So it's, here is my motif C. It was a bit more of a difficult motif to do for this, I think it was the 3rd round, where you see the petals being formed. You have to drop, you work with the pink, in my case, I worked with the pink yarn dropped the pink yarn, worked with the green yarn, dropped the green yarn. It was kind of fun to do, but it was a little bit more tricky. My main problem with this motif is that it doesn't lay flat. I don't know if you can tell really well, but I mean, it's supposed to be raised, but it's just kind of wobbly. Do you see how it's just kind of, I don't know. I just didn't like how it laid. I didn't think it looked great. I don't know if it's coming across on screen how wonky it looks, but I wasn't happy with it. And I didn't love making the motif. So I wanted to try something else for that third motif. And I've mentioned before that I have this Crochet Kaleidoscope book by Sandra Ang. I use it all the time. And in here there are several hexagon motif patterns. So I thought I would look through this and see if I could find something that would work. And I did. I found motif number 70, which looks like this. And I thought that would work great for the flower theme of the afghan. So I worked up a sample and I followed this motif, number 70, has a total of 6 rounds. I only crocheted 5 of the rounds and it was already big enough to match the size of the other hexagons that I have made. So this was my first sample. So there, in the original pattern, there'd be one more row of this same type of stitch that I have along the edge here. But I thought that comparing it to the other 2 motifs, I thought that the raised part of this motif was a bit much, and I wanted to make it a little bit smaller to be a bit more cohesive with the look of these motifs. So I wanted to modify it a little bit. So what I have done is I've only done, so in the original pattern of this number 70 motif, you're supposed to do 4 rounds of the popcorn stitch, which is what is used to make these cute little puffy stitches. I love making the popcorn stitch. It's so fun and I think it turns out so cute. But I only did the first 3 rounds instead of 4. And then I followed the stitch instructions for round 5, but just did it on round 4 instead. And then I did follow round 5's instructions. And then at that point, I could tell, comparing it to my other motifs, that this one was just a tiny bit smaller in dimension than the other motifs. So I then did one more 6th round of just single crochet stitches around the outside of this motif. And that now matches the other motifs that I'll be putting into the blanket. So anyway, I've made 4 of these as well. These are more time consuming with all those popcorn stitches, but I just love the looks of them. They're so fun. So I'm very excited to continue working on this project. It's my favorite right now, my favorite project that I'm working on. This one is so great, isn't it? I love the colors in this particular motif. I think that's great. I love this bright purple color and I only have 1 skein of that, so I'm going to be using up as much of that as I can because it's my favorite. I hope that the little girl that gets this will enjoy the bright colors in this afghan. I think it will be fun for her. I hope that she loves it. So I started that on July 2nd. Like I said, the Flower Power Mail runs all month, so, and you're not required to finish your projects. It's just participatory as well. Like I love doing those kinds of make-alongs. So anyway, I think that covers it for that project. I am really excited about it. And it's been fun to join in that make-along as well. Those are all of the projects I have to share with you all today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you have enjoyed seeing the things that I've been working on, and I really hope you're enjoying the things that you're making as well. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.